half ago. I certainly don't want to stifle anybody from asking for inquiries, but in this environment, anybody can throw things out there, and that has to be held accountable. But maybe that'll change.
Mayor, we haven't yet seen that in the form of an AG yet, right? Because I don't know.
It was an email. We haven't gotten it formally on the AG yet.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it. That's the only reason I asked. I did not know anything physically about it till I got an email yesterday.
That's what I know.
Wondering if they had, and you didn't have to ask me up until that point if there was an investigation going on. I understand. I'm just questioning now that I know it is final.
Never knew anything about it.
They just went off our practices and everything.
It's not on their website yet. Usually the IG puts everything on their website. Excuse me. And I looked at that, and it's not on their
check yes or no.
It's okay. I'm fine with Rachel.
Okay. So I'll leave this with the village clerk. I like to post it on the website. I was going to talk more about it tonight, but I think I'll leave that for another day. And, I think I see Mr. Green wanting to...
Well, I just want to make a final comment. I know we had some great discussion regarding, our recusal, and
sure.
My frustration is not about, people who feel that there's truly, something wrong, or that people are misbehaving, or they're abusing their office, whether it's me or anybody else on this dais. And as I said earlier, if I know anybody who is, using and abusing the offices that regulate and monitor our activity for political reasons, I'll be the first one to speak out and defend anybody on this dais. I absolutely will, because it is absolutely just despicable. And, when I see this report that comes in from the IG and their findings, and, the fact is, it's public record, guys, Jack Mancini filed this report. And, Jack stands here and talks about, building bridges and moving forward and healing and the sins of the past, and why can't we just get along, and, why does it have to be so contentious all the time? He walks away from that dais and he goes home on his computer and he starts filing reports. So I don't know what his motivation is. I've met with Jack. My office is open. If he's got differences of or takes exception to my point of view on anything, I'm happy to talk to anybody. But there's a faction out there, and I know there's two sides. And I hope, and I think we've all kind of thrown out there to both sides that guys, tone it down. You want to have a discussion about what's best for this village, here's where we do it. We've got the forum. We've got a process in place that allows everybody to come out, every resident, whether you're a fan of the chamber or not a fan of the chamber, or the Alliance or the Preservation Coalition or any faction that's out there, come here, let's discuss it, let's be mature, but don't run home and come up with some fictitious name and sit there and blog the most heinous, obnoxious crap that you put out there on the internet. You're a bunch of cowards. If you got something to say, come here, show your face, and talk about it. And that's all I got to say.
And I'll just say one more thing regarding, and I guess I'm not the last one, regarding the complaint. And, everybody has an opportunity for inquiry. I voted for the Inspector General. I voted for the Ethics Commission. I certainly have, and I vote for him again. But when you see some of these complaints that really defy reasoning, and for instance, it says here that, many people in Wellington, and it goes on, I'll let you read it all, but they're claiming that this was an insider deal. They're stating this was an insider deal a few times. I don't know what the fine line is, but I know if this is public record, and I believe that this has to be sworn to, then ask questions about the legality of it, ask questions whether we could have done it, but cast aspersions. Again, like I said before, it's like the question is, when the last time you beat your wife? You never did. You don't remember the answer, you always remember the question. And people are going to look at this. And if anybody in the future has any, aspirations to run for higher office or seek another public servant job, this will come back. They won't see that it was dismissed. They will see that it's an insider deal when they have no proof, no facts or anything. But they're using the system, and as Mr. Green said before, even the Commission on Ethics said they're using us, and we're tired of it. So I'll leave this. I'll leave this for public with the village clerk, and we'll post it.
That was in an email today, or yesterday?
Came in last night.
I think last night.
But there are two people in this room right now that have filed more of the IG investigations against Wellington than anyone. I really sincerely am alarmed that someone would say, if you have a question about how we're doing something, that that's not the proper way to handle it. If someone has a question about how we do something, the proper way to handle it is to go to them and make an inquiry. I don't understand why it would be okay with people in this room as long as they're filing them, then they're founded. And that's where we're losing our perspective here. As far as that person's concerned, they thought it was founded. The ones that you have filed, the ones that Bart has filed, you have felt that they had a reason to be filed. We have to be very careful that we don't send a message that it's wrong. One of the things to ask the questions, and these are the ways to do it. This is the way that you're supposed to do it. That's what they're there for. They'll tell you themselves. Cheryl Steckler has come and said, you have a question? Call me. I call their office and ask them questions. I haven't filed any investigations, but I have asked questions about them, and that's the proper way to do it. I don't want to send a message that it would be improper to use that, but I do recall when the Office of IG and the Office of the Commission on Ethics was established, they said there would be a method and a mechanism to pay for ones that were found to be motivated. They brought that out as they said, we're going to do this, and we said, how are we going to know? How are you going to know if someone's doing this and they're politically motivated? She said, we just will. That was her answer. We just will. And if that's the case, we will seek the fees from the person filing it. I've never seen that part of the plan played out. And I'm not suggesting that we somehow do that, but that was part of this plan, was that if things were unfounded and things were filed, that it wouldn't be borne by the taxpayer. But in fact, all of this is borne by the taxpayer. Let's just face it, it's all borne by the taxpayer.
I know we're held to a higher standard, and if people really feel like, you know what, maybe they didn't follow the rules, for whatever reason, I don't have a problem with people making inquiries, but there are things that the general public does not know at this point, and I promise each and every one of you, this will become abundantly clear about a group of people who are part of I'll call it a conspiracy, and I'm not going to go beyond that at this point. I'm not going to tip my hat. My attorneys have said be patient, but it's unfortunate that it's going to even probably get a little worse before it gets better. But these people can't hide behind these complaints and then pretend like hey, let's stand here and be friends and let's shake my hand when you see me at a luncheon. I'm not going to play that game. I mean, you're going to make the attacks that you're going to make. You're going to come after me and my family. You know what? You're going to be held to the same standard because these people are professionals. These are our business leaders. These are people that are tied to some of the most important things that occur in this village, and they're the ones that are dividing this community. And the facts and the truth will come out sooner than later. I trust you. Trust me. I promise you.
Mr. White?
I don't want to get into that. I'm not talking about ethics complaints or anything, but
people are going to start coming back in a minute.
I just had concern when I read this one, when it said that, members of council went to a cocktail reception to talk about something, and it wasn't publicly noticed. I've been to a lot of events in this village where other members of council were, and I went to, when other events were coming up, I went to everybody on both sides of those events and went to those receptions and listened to everybody's sides of it, and they weren't publicly noticed because none of us were taking action there, and those kinds of comments, that's just knowledge. That's no knowledge. We don't publicly notice meetings when we go to events. And so to say that, and actually, if I'm right and I recall the conversation correctly, nothing that was talked about at that creation of the Landowners Association was even mentioned about the Wellington Park, horse park event even. So you're tying two events together that had no correlation to each other just to throw it in a report. And so that's my only concern with it, because two things. They weren't the same thing. And second of all, we don't public notice cocktail reception. We're not going to public notice the Peace Pole Rotary Day event if we all go to it. We've all been to it before. So those kinds of things are just, it's just adding language in there to just add more verbiage to something that just doesn't make sense.
Before I forget my comment, Ms. Cohen, and I agree with you. I don't have a problem. I mean, I filed a complaint to look at the credit card, but I didn't file, my complaint wasn't, oh, and by the way, the village is stealing money from the taxpayers and putting it in their pockets and their cooks. My complaint was you need to look at the credit card because I had some issues having sat on council, and if anybody had known me before, I was on council before, I'm kind of retentive when it comes to that. But in the report that says, oh, and by the way, there was an agenda review that the horse park was presented, and council did not invite participation. Well, they know at an agenda review the public doesn't participate. They know this. The people, I'm not even sure Jack wrote this. The people who wrote this understand our rules and regulations. I even put in here, and oh my God, the council only gave each person 3 minutes to speak at a council meeting. They know that. And if anything that I've tried to do is kind of be very flexible with the amount of time I give people to do it. So it's throwing everything out there and hoping something sticks, but kind of nothing is going to stick. But they'll get it, and then the Post will write about it, and then these things will snowball. I don't want to limit anybody's chance to ask questions. And again, that's not what I'm here for, but if you're going to make a complaint, someone once said, and I don't know who it is, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your facts. And I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I don't want to stifle anybody, but this is very unprofessional. And again, I'm not sure. Jack, and I've met with Jack. I've spent 2 hours with him.
And I have copies of all the IG complaints from the time we did a public records request, so if anyone has any questions and they want to know which ones were filed, I have copies of all that, so they can contact me.
And so do I.
Mm-hmm.
And so do I.
Right, and that's what we should do, is make the information available if people are looking for it. That's our job.
This complaint was filed a week after we decided on a split council decision to move forward this complaint. And I'll ask you to read it.
I did read it.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
One of the most important things that stood out was when they talked about this being some kind of inside deal. The land was valued at about, $7.8 million, and the offer to purchase it was for $10 million. So I think we'd be happy to make those deals all day long.
I think someone once said that if everything was running smoothly, they wouldn't have a job. I think this is part of the running that smoothly. Ms. Cohen, I cut you off.
No, I wanted to say that there was an implication in there that there was some sort of sunshine violation, and as long as you are not discussing village business or anything that's reasonably likely to come before the council, there's no requirement that you notice if you're all attending a cocktail reception or a public event or something like that.
But to be clear, if you're at that cocktail party, you can't, for instance, approval of that proposal, you can't discuss that proposal or convey to other council members what you're...
You can't discuss amongst yourselves.
The notice is kind of...
Right.
You shouldn't have that discussion.
Right, absolutely.
As it's for just...
But the fact that you're all attending an event or a cocktail reception together is not a violation of sunshine.
Let me ask you this, because this is an area that I struggle with. Let's say we all attend like a League of Cities event and we publicly comment on something. We have to be very careful with that, right? Because let's say John gets up there and speaks, and then I get up there and speak, and if it is an issue that would be coming back here,
yes, you would need to be.
Or maybe violate.
You need to be
We've had issues with that. Bob and I went to a chamber luncheon, a Wellington chamber luncheon at Wanderers Club. He was going to get up and do a State of the Village speech, and he was going to touch on some things that obviously were going to come back, and we knew that it would be brought in front of council. And he at the moment, he was kind of put in an awkward position. I said, Bob, no big deal. I'm going to step out of the room. I didn't hear what he said. I was 100 yards away from where he was. There were some obnoxious comments made as I walked out, but whatever. I think we're all very mindful of that. It's funny, Howard, because we'll be at Polo and I'll run into these guys and I'll walk over to Matt's tent and say hello. His kids are there, my kids are there. And, guys like Dean Turney walk by and start taking pictures. And it's like, Dean, you want to take my picture? Take my picture. And I got 1,000 people, within 40 feet of me, but you want to take my picture? Take my picture.
But Mr. Green, the worst picture is of me that's on the blogs, not you, so far.
Well,
I mean, they got to get a worse picture.
I can tell you that. It wasn't taken by me and it wasn't posted by me.
No, and I'm not saying that it was. I'm just saying if you want to get into inappropriate pictures, I think I take
There's nothing
space.
inappropriate about it. It was like silly. It's like, well, taking my picture?
I don't like the picture of me snarling, but if you want to go get a worse one, I'll be happy to see it.
I'll go one further. I was sitting at Gabe's with my wife and Victoria McCullough and Aroma, and Mr. Mancini walks in, sees us there, sits next to us, and takes out his camera. He's pretending to look at the menu, and he's going like this. And we're waving at him and saying, take my good side. But, I mean,
see, we can't, we're not responsible for that.
I think that's an important point, Councilman Gerlich. We've had this discussion that some of the things, I'm not responsible for anything that gets posted about you, and I've really directed my friends and family to just stay away from these blogs. Don't read it. I don't read it. I don't know who does read it. I can tell you, I'll tell every one of you guys up here, it's not coming from me. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know the names of these people, and I certainly hope, and I take you at your word when you said you have nothing to do with it and you're not behind it. So, I think we've made progress as a council, and I think we owe it to the people of this community.
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Second.
On favor, yes.